Hey everyone, today I'm going to be doing the first impressions for our level 100 Bard. I got it to max level, played a couple of extreme trials on it, did some dungeons on it, and so I want to just talk about it a little bit. I'll talk about some of the changes that have happened to pre-level 90 Bard as well, and then I'll go over some of the new skills that we got and how they are going to be affecting how we are going to play Bard. So let's start out with the quality of life changes first. The biggest thing, I guess, would be that songs no longer require a target. This was a very big problem in fights where the boss would go untargetable during points where you would want to switch out on songs because you couldn't keep your song rotation on track if there was no boss to hit with your song, which felt really annoying, and honestly it was just kind of unplayable at that point. So it's really nice that your songs no longer require a target so that you can just keep your song rotation on track. Of course, if you were down for the count or stunned during like a cutscene or something like that, you still wouldn't be able to do it, but at least in those scenarios where it's just the boss that's not untargetable, you can keep your song rotation on track, which is really good. The second thing that they changed, and the third thing kind of as well, is more when it comes down to doing dungeons on Bard. They've made it so that Pitch Perfect is now an AoE skill, which is really nice because Wondrous Minuet felt kinda useless in dungeons, now it feels really good. And they've also made it so that your Straight Shot buff and your Shadow Bite Ready buff are now consolidated into one new buff called Hawk's Eye. This is also really nice because of Barrage. So back in Endwalker, if you wanted to use Barrage on Shadow Bite, you had to spam your AoE skill, hope for a Shadow Bite proc, and then once you got that, you could use Barrage to up the potency of Shadow Bite. At least I believe that's how it worked. It's been like 2 years since I leveled my Bard, so I might be a little bit wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it worked, and it just felt really clunky. Now you can just use Barrage, you get your Hawkeye proc, and then you can choose to spend that on either the triple refulgent arrow or on the stronger Shadow Bite. So that just feels really good as well. When it then comes down to the new additions to Bard, we don't actually have that many new things. We have a potency increases, we got a stronger Troubadour, and outside of that we only got 3 things. We got Heartbreak Shot, which is an upgrade on Bloodletter, and while it is technically just an increase in potency in a cool new animation, which I must say the animation for it is really nice, but the increased potency is actually going to make it so that Mage's Ballad now becomes our second strongest song again, which I'm a very big fan of because it means we got to cut Army's Paeon short. In Endwalker, you would cut Mage's Ballad short because Army's Paeon was technically stronger, and Army's Paeon, in my opinion, is a pretty boring song because you're just auto-attacking and pressing 2 buttons during that. You're pressing your Burst Shot and then Refulgent Arrow whenever that comes off cooldown, because you wanted to save your Bloodletter charges for when you were going into your burst mode. So it just felt like a really empty song. It still is, but at least now we get to spend around 10 to 15 seconds less time in there and spend more time into Mage's Ballad, where you're at least still going to be able to use those Bloodletter procs, or Heartbreak Shot procs as they are called now. So quite a big fan of this. Then we have Resonant Arrow. This is a combo action, sort of, I guess you could call it, on Barrage. So when you use Barrage, you get a buff for a couple of seconds that allows you to use Resonant Arrow, and this is a GCD that deals AoE damage, full damage on the main target, and then it splashes onto the targets next to it. Same thing goes for Radiant Encore. Whenever we use Radiant Finale, the button changes into Radiant Encore. You get a couple of seconds time where you can use the skill, and it is again an AoE skill on the target with drop off to all of the targets next to it. And that's pretty much it for Bard. So how does this then affect the gameplay, I guess you could say? Well, Heartbreak Shot makes it so that Mage's Ballad becomes more valuable, so we now get to spend full time in Minuet, full time in Mages, and then we cut our Army's Paeon short, which I'm a fan of because I don't really like Army's Paeon that much. You still have enough time to get all of the procs that you need to go into your Minuet and get like the full attack speed benefit from Army's Muse, I think it's called, not 100% sure, but like the buff that you get when you exit Army's Paeon, you get like an attack speed buff for a little while in your next song, so you still get that full stacks, no problem whatsoever. Resonant Arrow and Radiant Encore are basically just going to be 2 new GCDs that you press during your burst, which actually make your burst very different, I guess you could say. Like, you're going to be pressing a lot of different GCDs. You've got your Apex Arrow and the follow-up of that, you've got your Resonant Arrow, Radiant Encore, your procced Refulgent Arrow from your Barrage, and then you'll also want to use Iron Jaws to clip your dots into those raid buffs as well. So there's a lot of different GCDs that you're going to be pressing, and then you've got a lot of different off-global cooldowns as well. Like you've got 4 buffs you want to press, you've got your 3 Bloodletters charges that you've saved up from Army's Payon, you've got your Imperial Arrow, you've got any Pitch Perfect procs that you got, and then Sidewinder as well, which I guess Sidewinder I kind of want to talk about as well, because again, just like with Machinist, they have made a lot of improvements to the AoE rotation of Bard, but Sidewinder is still a single target skill. Like, why did they not make that AoE as well? Like, just give a drop off like they did with Resonant Arrow and Radiant Encore. But no, that thing is still single target as well, so rip for dungeons, I guess. But on single target, it's fine. So in general, Bard is a little bit more fun to play because we get to spend less time in Army's Payon. The burst is very satisfying to pull off now because you're pressing so many different buttons, a lot of different GCDs, a lot of different off GCDs. Feels really busy, feels really good when you pull it off. It also means that because I'm not very familiar with our new Bard just yet, because I haven't had the time to play it that much, it means that I am still looking at my hotbar quite a bit when I'm bursting, and that means if there is a mechanic, like for example in the level 99, like your first 2 minutes in that fight line up with a major mechanic, it means that I sometimes get distracted and either I'm not executing my burst properly because I'm paying too much attention to the mechanic, or I'm not doing the mechanic properly because I'm glued to my hotbars. So I do need to kind of get the burst into my fingers like I have with Machinist, and then it'll feel much better. But for now it is something that requires a bit of getting used to on my part. But I'm pretty sure that once I'm used to it, it'll feel just fine and I'll be able to focus more on mechanics as well. Overall, the improvements that were made to Bard make the class more enjoyable to me. Back in Endwalker, if you would have asked me to play ranged, it would basically be Dancer or Machinist, and Barst was something that I would just not really consider playing in a raid scenario. For now, with the changes that have happened, I actually quite enjoy playing Barst. Like, there are still some grievances that I have with the class, like Army's Payon is still as boring as it's ever been, and the dots are still 45 seconds, which I think is just way too long, and it feels like an afterthought. But outside of those things, Bard feels pretty good to play. It's just a slightly different playstyle than Machinist, for example. With Machinist, you're mostly paying attention to when your gadgets come off cooldown so that you use them whenever they become ready. With Bard, you're paying attention to procs a little bit more RNG to the rotation, which is a fun playstyle as well. So if Bard ends up being the best range to play for Savage, definitely not against playing it this time around. Feels pretty alright to play. Still not my favorite, but it's definitely not a class that is a little bit lower on my list of enjoyment like it was in Endwalker. It's definitely up there as a class that I enjoy playing now, and I'm pretty sure it will stay that way as well. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about. Let me know in the comments what you think about our new level 100 Bard, if you've leveled it already, and if not, are you planning on doing so in the near future? Let me know down below. And with that, I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.